So we're here at the Muddy Creek Cafe on the occasion of Country Dan Collins' retirement, which is indeed an occasion here at the Muddy Creek Cafe and on this side of town, which is the best side of town, of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's a big deal all around. Dan, how long have you been in Winston-Salem and how long were you at the Journal?
Well, if my public school education doesn't fail me, we can figure it out. I got here in 1978. It was August of 78. August 13th, in fact, was my first day.
Wow.
1978. And it's 2017, so it's right at 40 years, Ed.
Wow.
40 years.
Wow. I was around then. What are your memories of Winston? What are your first memories of Winston and that old newsroom at the Journal?
Well, before I even got into the newsroom, what I remember most about Winston-Salem was the tobacco smell. They just knocked me out. It hit me right between the eyes. You know, I wasn't used to it. Of course, over the years, I got nose blind to it. It didn't bother me. But I do remember that. So this is my hometown. It smells like this. And then I got into the office and I was working for sports editor Terry Obley, one of the real reasons that I came over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a hard time getting out of Chapel Hill, I have to admit, Ed. It was the 1970s. I was in my 20s. I was single. I was having quite a good time. But finally I knew to get on with my life, I better move on. And so I came over here in 1978. And I remember my first assignment, I don't even know what I went out to cover, but Terry Obley sent me off to cover something. And I brought it back and I wrote the story back on typewriters, you know, back on typewriters and handed them in by copy. And he looked at it and said, "That looks good." And I sat down and started making phone calls. And he goes, "Country, you can go home now. You're done." And I said, "Really? You know, it doesn't have to be an 8-hour day." He said, "No, we'll make it up somehow. Don't worry about that." So I remember that was new. And I just remember being kind of blown away by all the newness, but it was good because I knew I was working with good people.
You know, growing up, I went to R.J. Reynolds High School. We could tell when they were making menthol cigarettes.
Yeah.
You could the waft in the air here. You knew which cigarette they were making. So sad to say that is true.
Yeah.
What was Terry like in the early days? What was the newsroom like in those days?
Well, one day we had about 15, 18 people on the sports staff. Oh, it was wild. And just a big paper, and we had Joe Doster as our publisher.
Great guy.
And Joe Goodman as our managing editor. And these were old hard-nosed, great newspaper men, and I learned so much from them. And I just remember how many people that we had. We're down to, I think, 6 on our staff right now, and that's probably like a third of what it was back then. And a lot of them have been around for quite a while, and I had to work our way in, you know, up the ladder. Mary Garber was there, and she was a legend. Now, Mary could be hard-bitten now. Mary,
think?
you know, first of all, she is a legend. She was a wonderful person. I learned so much from her. But you're not a newspaper person as long as she is without taking care of yourself. And she was territorial about that Wake Forest beat. And if you stepped over the line and got into her territory, she could get at you pretty good. We learned that real fast about Mary.
Was it Carl Tacey who called the office and said, "You got to keep Mary off my desk. She's opening my mail"?
He would walk in and Mary'd be in there looking through his mail. It was Carl Tacey. It might be Chuck Mills.
Okay.
Actually, I think it was Chuck Mills, the football coach. It could have been either one of them. It could have been either one of them.
Oh,
but
man.
no, but Lennox Rollins was here then, and to this day he's still a great friend of mine, and worked with him for, I worked with him 35 years, Ed, and no, it was a special time. Even then, you could see it.
Lennox is the best.
Yeah.
He's the best. I tell people all the time, Dan Collins taught me how to write leads, and Lennox taught me how to write the rest.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there you go. I feel good about that part of it, yeah.
How do you write a lead? How did you learn to write that lead? We used to say Dan was on his way to the game and would stop at a stop sign and say, "All right, I got my lead." Something you had seen.
Yeah, I just always knew if I got started in the right direction, I was going to be okay. And I've always liked the one-liner.
Yeah.
I've always liked to capsulize everything into one line. And I kind of have a knack for it, you know, and so it's something that I just always worked on. And I would think about them. And the greatest leads you would have, Ed, you'll love this, it's the kind you could reverse depending upon the outcome of the game. You know, you could write it this way if Wake wins, or you could flip it and write it the other way. Then you were set already before you got there, you know, and you had to be, you had to be fast, or you had to be able to move fast in those kind of things. But No, I always loved the leads, and I think some of it had to do with the fact, I've always been a musician. I've always been a songwriter, and I've always kind of put things in a certain one line in a way, and I don't know, everybody has their certain gifts or something. That's something I could always do.
Well, it showed. I mean, from early on, I was reading you before I worked with you, and which was the case with all, with everybody.
Yeah, you grew up that way.
I subscribed to the Winston-Salem Journal.
Yeah.
Told people that my journalism school was the Winston-Salem Journalism School of Hard Knocks.
It was definitely hard knocks.
You walked in that door, and it was full of smoke and glue pots and people, characters like Trawick and J.A.C. Dunn.
I know.
Man, those days were so. Oh God.
Roy Thompson,
Incredible
Charlie
days.
Elkins.
Wow.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Wow, incredible days.
Yeah.
What's it like now? You're looking back on it. What's it like now?
It's not anywhere close to the same. Well, internet really kicked us around.
Yeah.
You know that. And then in the early 1990s, when internet, we never dealt with that right. And the newspaper industry responds by, okay, here's what we're going to do, folks. We're going to give you all of our content on the internet for free. All you got to do is just check in with us. Meanwhile, if you want to buy this paper that we're going to bring to your stoop, you have to pay for it. And most people had already read it before, and that's when you can start seeing the circulation starting to drop. But the way it affected me more directly was the changes. Wake Forest and the Winston-Salem Journal had a real rough relationship for a long time. The people at Wake Forest really did not trust the people at the Winston-Salem Journal. They didn't know them, and we didn't have a beat system back then.
Right.
Terry Oberle's idea was to have a pool system where I would cover Wake Forest one week, and I might cover Winston-Salem State the next week, and then North Carolina the next week, and then I might not see Wake Forest for another 5 or 6 weeks until week 5 or 6, and they didn't know me, I didn't know them, nobody knew each other, and there was a lot of bickering, a lot of wrangling, and they were convinced everybody over at the Journal was a bunch of Carolina Tar Heels, and they all love Carolina, they don't like us. And Dave Odom turned out to be the big hero of this story, Ed. Dave Odom got here in 1989 to be the head basketball coach at Wake Forest, and Dave is the type of guy he's a people person, one of the great people I've ever known. And he said, we got to do better than this. And so he lobbied to have a beat writer to come over and cover Wake Forest. And luckily enough, I got assigned to that beat in 1992. It was right when Ron Wellman became director of athletics. And Dave's story was, listen, you tell me what I need. You tell me what you need from me, and I'll tell you what what I need, and we'll work it out. And we did, Ed.
Yeah.
We always worked out the issues, and going from Dave Odom right up through Skip Prosser, who was one of the greatest coaches ever to deal with for any beat writer. Meanwhile, here comes Jim Grove to coach the football team. I used to always say I had the best beat in America.
There was no doubt about it.
There was no doubt about it. And I had it pretty much to myself because not many other people were covering it. I'd come and go, and again, Skip used to say, our practices are open until we get burned, and then we'll close them, which makes sense,
Yeah.
But here's the deal, Ed, they were never closed.
Right.
Because if somebody got hurt or there was an issue they didn't want out right then, we would talk about it in a way that I said, well, I don't have to write it for tomorrow because he might get better overnight. But before the game, we'll figure out a way if I can get in the paper. It doesn't hurt you too bad, and I'm taken care of.
Yeah.
Those issues used to get taken care of. Well, in today's time, controlling the message is everything. It's become more and more so. It's always been that way in business. It's becoming more and more that way in politics. Now, sports is big business. College sports is big business.
Sure is.
And I understand where they're coming from. But everything's about controlling the message. And one of the words that just drives me crazy is so and such a coach is going to have an availability today at 2 o'clock. It used to say I'd go over there and have a sit down with the coach. And I'd sit down with him for an hour and we talk about his team. Now I show up with everybody else who's there, and they'll drape the Wake Forest drape across the back, and they'll talk to everybody the same. And it's just, you don't have the same feel for people. They don't know me as well as I know, as I knew the other ones. And that's but I'm not blaming anybody because that's more the times than it is
It's exactly what it is.
And I didn't ever think that the coaches of today had anything against me. In fact, I feel like I have a good relationship with them, but I don't know the program like I used to know it. And we've lost some of there.
Well, we won't get it back. You called Dave, he picked up the phone.
Exactly right.
You know?
Exactly right. He would at any time.
Anytime.
And he might call you. You might pick up the phone and it's Dave Odom. What did you mean writing that about, And here's the thing. When any coach ever called me to say they were complained about anything I wrote, the first thing I would always say it was, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I know now. Let's work it out. Let's discuss what happened. That's the way you deal with people.
Dave called me once, and he said, Ed, he was at Guilford by then. I said, I need your help with something.
Yeah.
He said, I got this function coming up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he went silent. 5 seconds passed, 10 seconds passed, and he finally said, you know what, Ed? That was last week. But thank you.
Oh, what
Anytime,
a beauty.
Dave.
What a beauty. What a beauty, really. To this day, he's one of my really, really good friends. In fact, when I decided to retire, he was one of the guys I called to say, Coach, thank you so much for helping me during my career. I wanted you to know about this. And to this day, I love seeing, and what a sweetheart of a wife and Lynn, and, just the best
Part
people.
of the community.
Yeah, part of the community. Really good people.
Yeah, yeah. What are you going to miss? I mean, are you going to miss it?
On Thursday nights when I'm down here at Muddy Creek Cafe playing with my playing for friends and running this show, and I'm not going to be missing it one bit. There'll be times that I will. I'll be missing showing up at a football game or basketball game a couple hours early and seeing all the other people, sports writers, the people who work for Wake Forest, and the people around the scene and talking to them and hanging out. And I love that part of it, and I'll miss that. But I won't miss those nights of rolling in the house at 4 o'clock in the morning after covering a 9 o'clock game in Raleigh. I won't miss that. I won't. You know what I'm going to miss? And this is funny. When I started this business, the two things I really loved about sports writing was travel.
Yeah.
I got to get on a plane and go stay in hotels and cover games, and boy, I felt like I was somebody. And I loved rubbing shoulders with famous people. I came up through with Dean Smith, was the coach at UNC, and Bill Dooley, and hanging out. And I get to tell my brothers and my friends that, Dean told us this the other day, and I was hot stuff, And one of the things that scared me, and really the problem I had was deadline pressure.
Yeah.
Really was tough. It's tough.
It wasn't easy to get used to.
No, it wasn't. But here's funny how things flip. In this day and time, I don't like to travel anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done with planes. I'm done with hotels. I'm done with traveling. And famous people, okay, that's good. All right. But
Once you really get to know them.
I've been around Mike Krzyzewski 3 or 4 dozen times. And that's good. I respect Mike Krzyzewski, but I don't have to be around Mike Krzyzewski anymore. And what's funny about it is I like a good deadline at this point in my career. I like the adrenaline flow, it makes me know I'm still alive. I enjoy a good deadline. It's funny how those things flip.
I think I live off of it.
Yeah.
I was working on a magazine article. Somebody gave me an 8-month deadline. I thought, I don't want that.
You'll never get done.
Give me an 8-day deadline. Give me an 8-hour deadline.
No, one of my deals is I tell everybody, I've been writing songs, this forever. And I said, as soon as Willie Nelson covers one of my songs and it goes platinum, then I'll be living at the beach. But that is a deadline because Willie's 82. Willie's 82.
And he's not doing too good, I hear.
Not doing real well right now. But I tell people, don't worry, I'm used to working on a deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People would think it's crazy, but we would go on the road. We'd take our guitars. We'd take our harmonicas. We would either the people next door would tell us to shut up, or we'd have to come play in the lobby. One of the two.
On the door, or else they'd come in and sing with us. Now there was a period when Wake Forest and Vanderbilt had a series in football and basketball in the early '90s. Ed, when you were in the community working for, I guess, Greensboro by then, weren't you? And every year we'd be in Nashville at least once or twice that year.
Yep.
And there was a period in there, about 5-year period, where I guess I was in Nashville 7 or 8 times. They had a bowl game out there one time, and that was, of course, that was later on. But and I remember knocking around Nashville and getting to know Nashville really well from going into those towns. And I remember you and I knocking around Lower Broadway And we walked into Tootsie's one night, and we went into the back, and there was a band that was just trying to get started.
Just trying, yeah.
Just getting off the ground, and it was BR 549. And I remember nobody knew of BR 549 then, and we got to hear them on their way out, you know, when they were just getting started. And now that's what I'm going to miss.
Yeah.
Those things.
The days.
Those things. Now, when I would get into a town for that's the other thing. When we used to go cover a tournament, Ed, there would be 6, 8, 10 people from North Carolina.
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
covering that tournament, and we would all go out for dinner. I was the guy who would get the local musical and entertainment guide and find out where the good music was.
Right.
And everybody would come up to me and say, "Where are we going tonight, country?"
The social director.
Well, I'm going here. You know, and if you want to come on. And we would end up with 6 or 8 people there at a bar or some kind of place to listen to live music. And always in that one rule of thumb was, when you didn't know about that rock and roll band or you didn't know about this new band, blues.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you could always stick with the blues. You know, if it got down to a rule of thumb, you could always count on the blues. So a lot of times we saw a lot of blues.
We did. We saw a lot. I mean, shoot, we wrote our own songs.
We wrote a song. I got to tell you guys about a song that Ed Hardin and I wrote, and it's the only song I've ever co-written before. And we came back from a trip to Nashville.
To Nashville, yeah.
And we had sat in Tootsie's Orchid Lounge one afternoon, okay? And there was a nice barmaid in there. I can still remember her name. Her name was Jean.
Her name was Jean.
She was a sweetheart, and she sat there and poured beer for us all afternoon.
She had a tattoo. It was like 1992, and no girls had tattoos in 1992. She had one. I think it was a butterfly, but I could be wrong.
We were both smitten. We were sitting there, and I remember us getting back, and Ed brings me a sheet of paper that says, "I wrote this chorus for this song, country." And I look at it, and I go, "Ed, I think I could do something with that song. You want me to write a song about that?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." So I came up with one, and I think I'll play it for you folks if you can stand it. And it's about our trip to Nashville, Tennessee, to hang out at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge, okay? And Ed wrote the chorus. It was, "For the kids, I brought a T-shirt, and for my wife, a flannel gown, and for me, I brought the barmaid from Tootsie's Orchid Lounge." And so I said, "I'll write a song. We'll call it The Souvenir." That would be the name of the song. And it goes a little bit of something like this, okay? She warned me not to go off on this drunken Nashville trip. And I swore it was business, but she was having none of it. She said, "You love your country music more than you love your family." I knew I had to face the music. We're going to Music City, Tennessee. We stumbled into Tootsie's there before my bloodshot eyes was the closest thing to heaven, pouring bourbon over ice. And she asked me, "What's your pleasure?" And I knew right then and there I could never face my family without these souvenirs. For the kids, I brought a T-shirt. For my wife, a flannel gown. And for me, I brought the barmaid from Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. But my friend said, "Man, you're crazy." They simply could not understand how we 5 could live together. 2 kids, 2 women, and 1 man. Well, I went out, rounded up a jukebox, built a bar for all my friends, and with the barmaid tending nightly, I'll never have to roam again. For the kids, I brought a
t-shirt, and for my wife a flannel gown. And for me I brought the barmaid from Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. For the kids I brought a t-shirt, and for my wife a flannel gown. And for me I brought the barmaid from Tootsie's Orchid Lounge.
That's a Collins Hardin composition right there.
Beautiful. Fade to black. 30. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Good one, Ed. Good one, Ed.